Adam had long since resigned himself to the presence of his stalker. 5 years of eerie texts, silent watching from across the street, and the occasional cryptic gift had dulled his fear into a kind of numb annoyance. He refused to acknowledge the man's existence, treating him like a ghost that haunted the periphery of his life. It wasn't worth the energy to care anymore. Work was a different nightmare. Ayumi, his ever-present rival, was hailed as a genius in their field, though Adam knew better. She was only ahead because she had a nasty habit of siphoning off his ideas, dressing them up as her own, and presenting them with a smile. Their boss adored her. Their coworkers admired her. Meanwhile, Adam simmered with quiet resentment, knowing that every brilliant concept he worked on was at risk of being pilfered the moment he shared it in a meeting. Today had been particularly infuriating. A week's worth of work, carefully crafted and refined, had slipped through his fingers as Ayumi subtly claimed credit during their project briefing. He clenched his fists, his nails digging into his palms as he forced a neutral expression. There was nothing he could do. Nothing but swallow the injustice and pretend it didn't bother him. As he trudged home that evening, exhaustion settled into his bones. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Another message. He almost didn't check it, but curiosity got the better of him. "I love you. I would do anything for you." Adam stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, staring at the words. It was from him, the stalker. A laugh bubbled up before he could stop it. After 5 years, was this the best he could come up with? The absurdity of it all struck him at once, and for the first time, Adam decided to respond. "If you like me so much, then go steal her USB." It was a joke. A frustrated, spiteful joke. He shoved his phone back into his pocket and forgot about it by the time he got home. Then, less than an hour later, there was a knock at his door. His heart slammed against his ribs. Cautiously, he opened it. A man stood there, tall, lean, and awkwardly shifting on his feet. Adam had never seen him before, yet there was something unsettlingly familiar about him. The man extended his hand. In his palm, glinting under the dim hallway light, was a USB drive. Not just any USB drive. Ayumi's. Adam felt his stomach drop. "I got it," the man said softly, as if awaiting praise. His voice was deep, slightly hoarse, but there was an unmistakable sincerity to it. Adam's mouth went dry. What? "You asked me to steal it." A slow smile spread across the man's face, as if pleased with himself. "So I did." A chill ran down Adam's spine. "How did you—" "I listen. I always listen." The man tilted his head. "You never talk to me, but I know you. I know what you want." Adam stepped back. This was insane. This was dangerous. He should call the police. He should. The man sighed. "You don't trust me." Adam gaped at him. "Are you serious?" "You should." There was no menace in his tone, only quiet certainty. "I've never hurt you. Never even tried to. I wanted you to notice me." Adam stared at him, at the expectant look in his dark eyes, at the USB still waiting in his palm. This was a man who had haunted his life for years, someone he should have been terrified of. And yet, standing here now, he wasn't sure if it was fear that made his pulse race, or something else entirely. Slowly, hesitantly, Adam reached out and took the USB. Their fingers brushed. The touch lingered. "What's your name?" Adam heard himself ask. The man's lips curved into the softest smile. "Damien." For the first time, Adam said his stalker's name aloud. Damien. And somehow, it didn't feel as wrong as it should have. The silence between them stretched. Damien stood in the doorway, still watching Adam with quiet expectancy, as if waiting for an invitation inside. The rational part of Adam's brain screamed at him to shut the door and pretend this never happened. But instead, against all logic, he stepped aside. Damien's eyes flickered with something unreadable before he took a careful step forward, crossing the threshold into Adam's home. The air inside suddenly felt charged, electric. Adam swallowed hard, his mind racing. What had he just done? Damien didn't move far, simply standing a few feet away, scanning the small apartment with interest. His presence was unsettling, but not in the way Adam had expected. Now that he was here, no longer a faceless figure lurking in the distance, Adam could see him clearly. And God help him, Damien was beautiful. Messy black hair, sharp cheekbones, and dark eyes that held an intensity that made Adam's pulse stutter. There was something almost delicate about his features, but his presence was anything but. He exuded quiet confidence, an unwavering focus that made Adam feel stripped bare under his gaze. "You're nervous," Damien observed, voice soft but assured. Adam scoffed, crossing his arms to cover the slight tremor in his hands. "You think?" A small smile played on Damien's lips. "I didn't expect you to let me in." "Me neither," Adam muttered. A pause. Damien tilted his head slightly. "Are you afraid of me?" Adam hesitated. He should be. 5 years of being watched, of eerie messages, of feeling the weight of unseen eyes should have left him paralyzed with fear. And yet, standing here, the fear wasn't sharp. It was a dull hum, an undercurrent beneath something far more confusing. "I don't know," Adam admitted. Damien took a slow step closer. Not enough to be threatening, but enough to make Adam's breath hitch. "I won't hurt you." The certainty in his voice was almost enough to make Adam believe him. Almost. "Then what do you want?" Adam asked, searching Damien's face for an answer, for some hint of an ulterior motive. Damien exhaled softly, as if the answer should have been obvious. "You." Adam's heart skipped a beat. He hated how easily the words affected him, how they sent a shiver down his spine. He hated that. Despite everything, some reckless part of him wanted to believe it. He had invited a stalker into his home. And now he had no idea what would happen next. Adam swallowed, his fingers tightening slightly around the edge of his sweater as he stood in the middle of his small living room, watching Damien. The man had stepped inside with an eerie calmness, his movements slow and deliberate, as if he belonged here. But he didn't. Adam barely knew him. Hell, he didn't know him at all, other than the fact that Damien had been watching him for 5 years. That alone should have sent Adam running, should have made him demand the man leave. And yet, he stood frozen, unsure whether to slam the door in Damien's face or ask him how the hell he'd gotten Ayumi's USB so quickly. Damien didn't say anything at first. He simply stood there, gaze fixed on Adam, as if committing every inch of his face to memory. In the dim lighting of the apartment, his dark eyes held something unreadable, an intensity that sent a slow chill down Adam's spine. The tension was suffocating. Adam had to break it. He cleared his throat, forcing himself to sound unimpressed despite the uneasy fluttering in his chest. "So, you actually did it." Damien's lips curled into a small, pleased smile as he lifted his hand, palm open, the small USB drive resting in the center. "You asked me to." Adam scoffed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "I wasn't serious, Damien. I didn't think you'd actually—" He cut himself off, exhaling. "How the hell did you even do it?" Damien tilted his head slightly as if the question confused him. "That doesn't matter." "It absolutely does matter," Adam snapped. He crossed his arms over his chest, taking a half step back. "Did you break into her office? Steal it from her bag? I need to know exactly how much trouble I'm in." "You're not in any trouble," Damien assured him smoothly. "I was careful. No one saw." Adam bit the inside of his cheek. That should have made him feel better. It didn't. He studied Damien, really looking at him for the first time. His sharp jawline, the way his dark hair fell messily around his face. Those deep-set eyes that held far too much intensity for someone standing in his living room uninvited. It was unsettling how attractive Damien was, how effortlessly his presence commanded the room despite his silence. Adam hated that he noticed. His pulse pounded in his throat as he shifted his stance, trying to regain control of the conversation. "Okay," he said, inhaling sharply. "Let's say I take this USB. What do you want in return?" Damien blinked, seeming caught off guard. Then his lips parted slightly. "Nothing." Adam frowned. "Nothing?" Damien nodded. "I just wanted to do something for you." Adam barked out a short, incredulous laugh. "That's creepy as hell, you know that, right? You stalk me for years, steal something for me, and expect nothing in return?" Damien's expression didn't change. If anything, he seemed hurt. But it was subtle, barely there. "I don't expect anything," he murmured. "But if you want to give me something, I wouldn't say no." Adam's stomach twisted uncomfortably at the implication. He didn't know what disturbed him more. The fact that Damien was standing here in his home after years of watching him from the shadows, or the fact that a small, treacherous part of him didn't hate the attention. He needed to get control of this situation. Exhaling sharply, he took the USB from Damien's hand, their fingers barely brushing in the exchange. Even that fleeting contact sent an unwanted shiver down Adam's spine. He clenched his jaw. "All right, you've done your little favor. Now get out." Damien didn't move. He just watched him. "Do you really want me to?" "Yes," Adam said immediately, too quickly. Damien's lips twitched, as if he could see through the lie. "I don't think you do." Adam's hands curled into fists at his sides. "You think you know me?" Damien took a step closer, and Adam instinctively stepped back, only to find his back pressing against the wall. "Yes," Damien said softly, lifting a hand as if he wanted to touch Adam but stopping just short. "I've watched you for years. I know how you work late even when you don't have to. I know you bite the inside of your cheek when you're overthinking something. I know you hate the way people compare you to Ayumi because she's only ahead of you through deception." His gaze darkened slightly. "And I know you haven't been touched in a long time." Adam's breath hitched. Damien was close. Too close. Close enough that Adam could smell the faint scent of his cologne, something dark and smoky, and it made his stomach do uncomfortable flips. He swallowed hard, hands pressing against the wall behind him. "That's not something to be proud of," he muttered, forcing himself to keep eye contact. Damien exhaled through his nose, a hint of amusement in his expression. "I didn't say it was." For a moment, silence stretched between them, thick and heavy. The air felt charged, and Adam hated that his body reacted to it, to Damien's presence, to the weight of his gaze. This wasn't normal. This wasn't okay. And yet, "Why are you really here?" Adam whispered, almost afraid of the answer. Damien hesitated, his gaze flickering over Adam's face as if debating how honest he wanted to be. Then, in a voice barely above a murmur, he said, "I wanted to see if you'd finally look at me." Adam's stomach tightened. For 5 years, he had ignored Damien's existence, treated him like a ghost, pretended he wasn't there, wasn't real. But now, standing this close, feeling the heat radiating from him, hearing the sincerity laced in his voice, he couldn't pretend anymore. Adam hated that realization more than anything. He exhaled sharply, shoving a hand through his hair. "This is insane," he muttered. "I should be calling the cops." Damien's lips quirked into the smallest knowing smile. "But you won't." Adam didn't respond, because Damien was right.